let's make some rings. Except today we are ditching our original setup because we're going to be making a bunch of stacker bands. Here's a list of all the rings that we have to make. As you can see, there's quite a few, which I'm so happy. I love making these rings so much, and you guys actually order them very often, which I'm so thankful for. Anyways, let's get started with the making process. We're making both thin and thick stacker bands in sterling silver and gold fill, so I'm just going to pull out the sterling silver wire first, and we're going to go ahead and start with cutting the wire for the thin stacker bands. So here's what that looks like, and I did measure them beforehand, so right now I'm just cutting them where I marked. And we're going to be making two of these, one in a size 8.5 and the other in a size 6. Now we're going to move on and cut the wire for the thick stacker bands. We're going to be making 3 of these, one in a size 7, one in a size 8, and the other in an 8.5. And now finally, we are pulling out the wire for the gold filled ring. We're only making one of these, and it's going to be made in a size 6. So here's what all the metal looks like so far. After cutting it, the edges are a little rough, so we do have to go ahead and file down each piece. That way, once it comes to soldering and the next few steps, it will go as smooth as possible. After this, we need to shape each ring into somewhat of a circle. So I'm just grabbing my ring bending tool, and you'll see in a second that these aren't going to be perfect circles whatsoever. That's something that we're going to end up fixing at the end of the video. But here's what all of our rings look like so far. And next we're going to go in with a different tool and pull the ends together. That way there's no gap or extra space in between the two ends. After this, we're going to grab our soldering board and place each ring on there and then cover them in flux. This pretty much just helps protect the ring from fire scale while also helping the solder flow properly. Anyway, speaking of solder, we're actually going to cut all the solder pieces for each ring. We need pure gold for the gold filled ring and then silver for the sterling silver rings. Here's our little piece of gold. Thankfully, we don't need a lot of this at all because that tiny piece of metal alone is nearly $20. Anyways, now I'm going to grab each piece of solder and put it by the seam. And now we're going to pull out our torch and heat up each piece until the solder flows into the seam. If you look closely enough, you can see exactly when the solder does flow. I personally love this part. I think it's super satisfying. However, when making a bezel, it can sometimes be very frustrating. For the gold one, I'm actually going to solder it from the inside of the ring, just because if I do have any excess solder, I can't file it off because we are working with gold filled rather than solid gold. So rather than having any excess solder on the outside of the ring, it'll be on the inside. After this, I'm going to go ahead and quench each piece. That way it cools off completely and we could keep working on the rings. So right now I'm putting each ring on the ring mandrel and then hammering it out. This is going to help shape it into the perfect circle that we need while also work hardening the piece. So here's what all of them look like so far. After this, they're going to go into a pickling solution, which is simply to just help clean off any fire scale or residue from the flux. Next, we're going to file off any excess solder, specifically on the sterling silver rings, because like I said earlier, we can't file or even polish the gold filled pieces. So gold fill is definitely a very sensitive material, and it's one that I have to be very careful while working with. Anyways, now we're going to go in with all these different sanding discs. We're going to go all the way up to a 2000 grit. This is just going to help get out scratches and slowly bring a shine to our rings. Once I'm done sanding them down, all of the rings, including the gold filled ring, go in the jewelry tumbler. And this is just another thing that's going to help get out any minor imperfections while also really making the ring shine. So this is actually the final step for the gold filled ring specifically. However, for sterling silver rings, we are going to go in with 2 different polishing compounds. I personally love polishing rings. I think it's so satisfying. However, as you can see, it is a very messy process. Anyways, now all of our rings are officially done, and here's how they turned out.